So earlier yesterday, Dream posted a PASTEBIN that contained details about his thoughts surrounding the 1.16 speedrun. And there's sort of an admission in here, and at the same time, it's not really an admission of guilt per se. But we'll get into it later. Anyway, he starts off by explaining his thought process behind his initial reaction to the speedruns, which I'm sure you've probably heard multiple times, which is that he had a poor choice of a poor reaction, which is, to a certain extent understandable. He states how it was really hard for him to control his actions because he was being attacked in a language that he didn't understand, that language being math. And he states how he was a dropout. He didn't go to college. He just hated math his entire life, and that the fact that he was being attacked based on math, it was just hard for him to handle. And I understand, but again, he should have been more mature about it. But at the same time, he's overreacted a couple times now, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and to say that he is still maturing. He won't lash out like this again. At least he'll have better control over himself in the future. He states how he lashed out and how he called the mods clout chasers and did a lot of dicky things. And I'm glad he could admit to this. At least he acknowledges that he was being an asshole, that he was being a dick. And that's the first step in making everything right. So he goes on, he keeps talking about how he was very scared and how somebody had recommended that he speak with professionals about math so that he wouldn't be, so it's basically calling a lawyer when you're like, if you're being detained by police, first thing you want to do is call your lawyer so you don't say anything that will self-incriminate you. And he did that. He did just that. And people shit on him for it. People shit on him for calling an astrophysicist in, but he made the right move here. And although some of you might disagree, I completely stand by him on this point. Now, he goes on to say how the professor felt the mod team was wrong, and he crunched the numbers and he disagreed with them and said that it was possible for him to have this luck, although unlikely. He then posted his findings. He posted his findings in a video, which I'm sure that you all saw. I'm pretty sure it's deleted now, but yeah, it existed. He goes on to say that the mod team responds to the astrophysicist's analysis. The mod team points out mistakes in the astrophysicist's analysis, and the astrophysicist looks into those mistakes, and he acknowledges that he did make several mistakes in his analysis that other people were also starting to point out online. The astrophysicist decided to correct his findings, his numbers. While he didn't agree with the mod team's evaluation, he still stated that it was not likely for these numbers, the numbers that he found after correcting his mistakes made it very unlikely, impossibly unlikely for Dream to have not been cheating or modifying his game in some way. So he posts the professor's modified findings afterwards, and that says that it was very likely that he cheated, and this was very transparent of him to do. And he started thinking about the fact that maybe his game actually was being modified. I'm going to go back a bit further for the sake of clarity. So he had talked with a Mojang developer about possible bugs or glitches that may have caused his luck, his Pearl luck and his Blaze Rod luck to skyrocket. And as it turns out, the Mojang developer said that there were no bugs or glitches that could have caused this. And so he's left with this possibility that there was a modification that caused his game inadvertently to have modified the rates. And so he comes out and says that he had actually been using a disallowed modification for around 6 of his live streams, and that he had hired a developer to code mods because he and George had no experience with mods, and they only had experience with plugins. And he points out like specific areas where you could have noticed it in videos. He specifically lists how F3 is reduced in size, how particles could be reduced, or how you could notice like small improvements in features, and all, just sort of explaining how this mod kind of modified his game. And so he says that in his challenge videos that he always increased the Enderman and Pearl drop rates out of convenience for those videos, for those challenge videos in 1.16. And, this is a fair point. Those videos could be very annoying to make if you're just actually beating the game, because it could take, hours. Even though he's a speedrunner, he's doing these challenge videos with his friends. And he says that when 1.16 came out, that it was very complicated, or more complicated, to increase the piglin trade rates and the piglin trades for pearls, and that a server-side plugin was made for the videos that increases the rates of the piglin drops. And this was when the first versions of the recording mod was being made, and it was more of a chat mod apparently. And he says that he brushed this possibility off because server-side and client-side are completely different, and that a modification side to one side wouldn't mean a modification to another. And then he said that it was a chat mod for all he knew, that he didn't know about any other modifications that may be implemented into it, and that he was 99% sure that he didn't have the mod on. He states that his claim was backed up by Fabric API logs saying that only Fabric API was loaded, which people are saying that is a disallowed modification. I want to clarify that this was the Fabric API was banned after he has submitted his runs. I know a lot of people have been saying that Fabric API shouldn't have been in his mods list, but it was allowed. He reopened his mind to this possibility when he received the professor's modified findings after the fact, and he talked with the developer of the mod that he used, and he found out that the same improvements for server challenges, the challenges that were hosted on the servers that he uses with his friends, had been added to the client side mod, and that would mean that they would include single player videos like the shot caller video or other single player mod videos. He says that this was only in an earlier rendition of the mod and was removed because the developer realized that those types of videos can just be done on a PC hosted server. And if you don't know what a PC hosted server is, it's just anybody can download a server jar for your computer. You can just run it, and you'll just have like a local server that you can just run with your computer. And so he says that this includes a couple things that weren't mentioned at all during the controversy, such as the Ender Eye breaking rates being modified to be lower for the challenges, and that Enderman dropped pearls way more common, and that he didn't kill many Endermen in his runs, so it wasn't noticeable. And when he realized it, he said that he felt an extreme sense of guilt and took down his response video. He says he felt terrible for the mods because he had dragged them through the mud, and in the end, they were completely right about his rates being modified. He still thinks that they dealt with the situation very unprofessionally, but that he was being an asshole and he was not being as mature as he could have been. And he goes on to just say about how he had a lot of what ifs, what abouts, and, thinking about the situation more, regretting some of his decisions, I guess. And then he says, later down the line, he says that around the time of MCC, which is MCC 14, which I unfortunately wasn't able to watch live. I just watched a few clips, so sad. Anyway, so the mods decided to remove his old runs due to them being due to suspicions, and that the 1.16 run was still invalid. And this is in protocol with standard procedure for removing any other runs from a cheater. And he ends off the PASTEBIN by sort of saying that this was sort of a huge weight on his shoulder, and he was glad that it was finally off. He goes on to just say a little bit more about his history of speedrunning, and how he is nowhere near the best. And in the final paragraph, he says that I hope that this gives insight into my mindset a little bit, but if not, I'm not sure what will. I'm sure I'll talk about it more just for clarity's sake, but I want to avoid causing more drama. Please don't send any hate to the mod team or anyone involved in the situation. I don't want any more drama at all. You're no supporter of mine if you do. Dream. So, let me just clarify this a bit. So, if you don't understand, he had a modification for the game that he uses to make videos easier to make. Take Tommy in it, for example. He and his buds, they openly cheat, right? They openly cheat in their mod videos. They just straight up just cheat in items so that their video doesn't take forever to film, right? It's content creation. It doesn't have to be genuine. At the end of the day, they're not hurting anyone's integrity. They're just doing it to make content for themselves. Make videos, make them easier to make, And same thing with Dream. He had this mod to make videos easier to film, like for the challenge videos. And so, is this an admission? Yes and no. See, this is an admission of fault on his part for reacting so poorly and then digging himself deeper and deeper. And so now here we are where he finds out that it was actually his own fault, and it wasn't the mod team having a vendetta against him. It was all his own fault. And so in this way, it is an admission of... It's difficult to say. This is more of an admission of having been wrong, I guess. Because the thing is that he isn't necessarily guilty, because he did not intentionally cheat, but it's still cheating, And this is a genuine mistake, all right? If anybody says otherwise, it is a genuine mistake. You can say all you want about him. You can say how poorly he reacted, which is true. He reacted very poorly. But at the same time, this wasn't done on purpose. He did not knowingly start a war against the mod team in which he was fully in the wrong for. Personally, if you're going to ask me, I say this is the truth. That he isn't lying about having not known about this modification. But at the same time, how could he have known? I mean, unless you were very attentive to every single minute detail, there was no way that you could have known that your game was being modified to this extent. I mean, he couldn't even find out after checking Fabric API logs. I mean, after he checked the logs, it only said that Fabric API was loaded, so he couldn't have known. Again, I want to clarify, this was not an obvious issue. The mod team didn't even catch this. All right, the mod team themselves did not catch that this mod was active. Only Dream finally noticed that this mod was active, and he decided to post about it, which was very bold of him to do. Very honest, honorable, and this kind of honesty and integrity is important. Hate him all you want. I don't necessarily love the guy either. I mean, he's a bit egotistical. He's a bit big in the head. He's a bit of a sore loser at times. I highly doubt this was intentional. And if it does come out that he was intentionally doing this, turning a blind eye, I guess, and just feigning ignorance somehow, I mean, then, well, I guess that's just, I guess that's just it. I mean, we'll never really know. I mean, maybe if we get a word from the developer, that'll help solidify things. I doubt that will, though. I mean, the developer might be a little biased and take fault for not informing Dream if he does. Anyway. All right. let's end this off on a positive note. So if you don't know who Geosquare is, he's a very prominent member of the mod team on Minecraft Java Edition speedruns. He, like Dream, confronted his mistakes. He apologized for them. He says that Dream and him are cool again, and that we're finally seeing some closure today. And that's really good. It's very wholesome that we finally have closed a chapter. We're finally seeing the end of something that should never have even happened. That should have been handled completely in closed doors and wouldn't have been blown so out of proportion had it not had Twitter not existed. All right, let's blame all this on Twitter at the end of the day. All right, fuck Twitter. Can I get a fuck Twitter in the comments? Yeah. All right, this is all for today. I think that's it. I have a bitter taste in my mouth now, although this does end on a pretty sweet note. So I'm glad we see resolution here. But yeah, guess that's it. See ya.